This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com, and I've done a lot of videos interviewing people about the death of Bruiser Brody on this channel, and there's been a dark side of the ring on it. It may not have been known that much before YouTube. Only people that ordered shoot interviews would hear about it, and prior to the internet, it was hard to find information from other areas like Puerto Rico. But I think the story of the Brody murder in the last 20 years or so, it became a bigger story than in like the 15 to 20 years after it happened in, I believe, July of 1988. But I recently came across a video that I put in the description of this video of Invader #1, aka Jose Gonzalez, commenting about the murder accusations against him for reportedly stabbing Bruiser Brody to death, according to reports in the WWC Puerto Rico locker room. And I'll just go over some of the things he said. He said that his 1.5-year-old daughter drowned shortly before this death. So, in other words, he was likely an irresponsible parent. And apparently, he also says his wife's father died prior to these accusations against him, because he then says after all that, he was then accused of causing the death of a wrestler in the locker room, which he says he's not that type of person that would do such a thing. And the only reason he was accused of this was because he was the locker room disciplinarian in WWC Puerto Rico, and nobody likes a disciplinarian. He says he suffered in wrestling because of many things like this that he's had to deal with. So that's pretty much the extent of it, but I thought I'd bring it to people's attention. And just so you know, the people that said he never came back to the mainland U.S. after the murder, he appeared in Florida as recently as last month in Kissimmee, Florida, for Next Generation Championship Wrestling. So this is not the first time I've heard of him wrestling in Florida or appearing. I believe he was honored in Florida, and I actually looked up the video from it, and he was cheered. So again, just bringing this to people's attention that he has spoke about it, and I'm not sure, other than an interview right after it happened with Hugo Savinovich, that Hugo and I talked about when I interviewed him a couple of years ago on this channel, that there's nothing in the recent years since all this publicity has come out about Brody related from Invader #1, who I'd be happy to do an interview with sometime if he ever wants to, because I'd like to ask him some more details than that, because I mean, okay, so if he didn't do the stabbing, that's one thing, but if you're in charge of what's going on in the locker room and maintaining order in the locker room, a guy bleeding to death on the locker room floor, that's not something you're going to try and save the guy. Or you're like, why didn't you try and save the guy? Because according to the reports I heard, during the time Brody was bleeding out on the floor, that was the time that Invader seemed to disappear, as well as this alleged weapon that they never end up finding seemed to leave the premises. And from what I understand, one of the reasons that Brody actually died was because he couldn't get medical attention fast enough. With all the connections WWC had at that time, which was probably at one of the heights of its popularity, they did not have the connections to get an ambulance there fast enough. And I mean, Carlos Colon alleged that there was a doctor in the building, but there was no one doing first aid. Anyways, it's not my case. I just thought I would bring it to people's attention. And yes, he did get cheered in Florida. You guys could search it up. I saw it. Have a good night. Enjoy your Saturday, everyone.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news